What is going on, YouTube people? Neo Cards and Comics here. Remember when Fanatics came in and I said they're going to want to control everything? They're going to want, I shouldn't say control, but they are going to want a piece of everything. Today, Fanatics announced earlier today, I'm a little late to the party on this one, had some work meetings today. Fanatics is launching a live events company called Fanatics Events. Good original naming there. Kidding aside, they are going after, I shouldn't say going after, I guess going after might be their best term for it. They are making a play into the live event, aka show space. Now, there's going to be good and bad with this. Like, I already hear people yelling in the comments about, monopoly this, monopoly that, blah, 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 blah. And I think this is one of those situations, and I'll point out to something that Sue's on Twitter and Dustin mentioned in his video that he did on this. There are going to be some instances where things can get a little squirrely, and we'll kind of see how they end up handling it in the long run. But I think this is one of those cases of everyone wants to run to one extreme or the other. This is the best thing in the hobby or in the world. This is the worst thing in the hobby or the world, whatever the case might be. I think Fanatics, based off of the pitch here, can run these and it won't really have a drastic impact on your traditional regional shows. So what do I mean by that? If Fanatics comes out and does what they say they are going to, one, I don't believe this will affect your normal local card shows that you go to. My Canton show, even regional shows. The Shipshawana show. I don't believe this would have any impact on the Shipshawana show. When you get into the next tier, the Dallases, the Chantilly's, Philly card show, Burbank, that sort of stuff. From a card show perspective, I don't think it'll affect very much. It could hurt it a little bit, just depending on how many people travel and all that. But generally speaking, those established shows have a very loyal fan base. I don't think that they're going to have a problem still continuing to draw well. It could hurt them a little bit, but I don't think it will be a death blow to any of them. Now, the one wrinkle I will throw in here is what Susan and Dustin both talked about, which is the impact that if Fanatics wanted to, now we don't know that they're going to do this, so everyone just deep breath it, but if Fanatics wanted to, could they take Fanatics exclusive athletes, entertainers, pop star people, whatever? If they're Fanatics exclusive, could they limit them at only signing at their shows? That would impact a lot of those shows. Until we know that, I'm not going to go full panic meter. But if you are one of those bigger regional shows, this should be the signal to you that you need to start stepping your game up. Same with the National. This seems like a direct, I don't want to say shot at the National, but the guy that is running this runs Star Wars Celebrations, I've never been to. New York City Comic Con, I have been to. I have done business with the Reed Pop people, as in I attended the show. I have gone onto their platform and bought things for their events at New York City Comic Con. I went through the process of applying for a professional badge last year to New York City Comic Con with them. And this year, New York City Comic Con, compared to the National, is on a completely different level. I mean, a completely different level. From a marketing perspective, from a modern look and feel perspective, from the number of events that are swirling around or orbiting the main event itself. There is so much going on at New York City Comic Con. And same with Star Wars Celebrations. Like I said, I've never been, but I've paid attention to it from afar as a large Star Wars fan. They have the potential to really amp this thing up. And this is not, whatever they end up rolling out, and once again, I'm going to speak from my experiences at New York City Comic Con. When I attended New York City Comic Con last year, it was less about going and buying comics and more about taking in everything else. And while I think the card show aspect of this will be a little bit different, and I've never been to the Mint Collective, but they also, IMG, which is helping this, also runs the Mint Collective. the way I've understood it from afar on the Mint Collective is kind of similar. The corporate experience, the show experience, the panels, that sort of stuff at the Mint is more of, or I shouldn't say more, but a large portion of the focus versus the actual card show itself. The card show itself will be a draw. It will not be, in my opinion, the main draw once they spin things up. It could be autograph signers. It could be pop stars, pop culture stars. It could be music. Who knows? Or it could be a little bit of everything. That's the thing with these events. They have so much going on to cater to a wide base of people to get as many people to the event as humanly possible. I'm a huge fan of New York City Comic Con. It is a ton of people. It is a busy space. There's a ton going on, but I had an absolute blast last year. And if you remember, I did videos after New York City Comic Con talking about why don't we have something like this in the card space. I do think the old school show is not going anywhere. I want to go into a big old convention space that maybe the lighting's not that great. It's old concrete floors. The Wi-Fi might be a little bit spotty, and dig through some dollar boxes or whatever. I don't think that's going anywhere. But on the flip side, and as much as I like attending those types of shows, on the flip side, I would love if there was a crown jewel like event like New York City Comic Con, but in the card show space. The National is great. I have a wonderful time attending. I will go as often as I possibly can. It's an absolute blast. But it is not up to date to modern standards. There's a lot I feel like they leave on the table in regards to the orbit of things going on around the show. It is very much, which is fine. It is 100% fine. The focus of that show is the cards itself. But for the people that want to attend that want a little bit more than that, I wish that that was kind of there. There's a lot going on at the National, but I feel like there could be more going on at the National. And sometimes the older shows seem to not want to, I don't want to say not get with the modern times, but you're seeing it right now. There's been a lot of news and stuff circulating around trade nights getting canceled at the National. I actually had a conversation with someone in DMs, I believe it was DMs, maybe it was comment section on a video, about dealers at the Nashville show complaining about the trade night there. And I think old school dealers and stuff like that, old school card show people need to realize that the modern card show is adapting. I get that, you know, if you're a dealer and you walk into a trade night, you see a bunch of people doing deals and cash changing hands and cards changing hands, and you paid for table space, that could piss you off and make you mad. But you got to think bigger than that. I'll use the Ship Show as an example. This is something when I interviewed Brad, go back and check out that interview. He's the guy that runs the Ship Shawana show. We talked about the trade night specifically, and he mentioned that his dealers really pushed back on it at first. They did not like the idea of it at all. And then as time went on, they realized what that trade night did for that show specifically. It added on an extra bonus for people attending. And you want as many reasons as possible to get people in the door and in your event space. The trade night and these other ancillary things in terms of New York City Comic Con, panels, star appearances, all this stuff, you want things to get more people in the door. If Ships has a trade night, more people are willing to travel to that show because they get the trade night out of it and they get the show out of it versus just going to a card show for 4 hours. And newsflash, if a bunch of cash changes hands at the trade night, there is a decent chance most of that cash is going to walk into the door the next day at the show. If people go to the trade night, I know I do this all the time. I go to trade night with cards that I'd like to move off of. Sometimes I trade them. Sometimes I sell them. I get money back. And then I walk into the show the next day and I have cash in my pockets to spend at the dealer's table. That's the ultimate win. But there is a lot to be skeptical around this. Generally speaking, I am actually pretty excited for this just based on my experiences at New York City Comic Con. And once again, I think this is going to be different than your traditional card show. This is going to be much more about the event and the events surrounding it. And there's also a card show going on. That's how I view New York City Comic Con as a one-year attendee. I'll be back again later this year. Now, there is some dangers here. Fanatics controlling a show. They do specifically mention in here that they want this to be the North Star, the beacon. They don't want to limit things or anything like that, because you could, Fanatics controlling a majority of the card space. If Upper Deck was like, hey, we want to set up at your show, could they be like, no thanks. We're not giving you a place to advertise, publicize, whatever. I don't think they will do that, but they could. If they have a Breakers Pavilion or a Breakers area, are they going to let someone in that's not a Fanatics Live breaker, for example? Do you have to be approved through Fanatics Live to set up in their breaking area? I mean, to me, that would make sense, yes. So it does give them this aspect of control that could be a little bit dangerous in regards to who gets in and who doesn't. But I do think we need a fresh scene, not to necessarily replace the National, but to go alongside it. I think the hobby in the industry is big enough to support these larger shows. We see it all the time. Dallas gets massive crowds. Burbank has launched and done fantastically on the West Coast. Maybe they even partner up with them together to combine their powers. I don't know. But on the flip side of that, some of these shows do need to kind of modernize, step their game up, turn dealers over. Fanatics, I bet you they're not going to care about how many years in a row you've set up. They are going to want to make sure that they have dealers that bring value to the show floor, just like they're doing with their card shops. And as someone that's paying a lot of money to attend these shows, I'm kind of okay with that. Maybe that's a hot take. I don't know. But lots of stuff to shake out here. I am very intrigued by this. Like I said, I have an absolute blast attending New York City Comic Con. I have a blast at the National as well. They are not the same shows, and that's okay. I think the card world, the sports card, sports memorabilia world is a way big enough industry to support something like, I would love to see the National as the pinnacle. I'll use the term North Star because that's what they did here. The pinnacle of the traditional card show. I am going there to focus on cards and, trade nights and stuff like that. I would also like to see whatever this Fanatics thing ends up being, have it be, hey, we are the event of cards and sports memorabilia. It's not about necessarily digging through dollar boxes, but it's about taking in all the various different aspects of sports, pop culture, memorabilia, cards, all that stuff. I would love to see an event centered around that as well. And I think those two things can coexist. Will there be friction? Yes. But I think generally speaking, there's enough people to support something like that. So I'm excited to see where this goes. As always, curious for your thoughts and comments down below. We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.